Hello, this is Dr. Pete, and I was given the topic about recently there was issues in the paper and the newspapers about Mexico and the debates between international borders and NAFTA and things of that nature. And we have to remember that NAFTA was passed under President Clinton. Like any piece of legislation, there was a lot of promises for all these great and wonderful things. Some people say it happened, some people say it didn't. There's a number of studies that I would really encourage people to look at because and you also have to be careful what studies. Some of them are more biased, some of them are they have a hidden agenda, but there are a number of good ones out there, and I'm not here to tell you what they are and how it works. But whenever setting up something, you got to look at different issues. For example, someone was talking about the whole NAFTA and the border control and all that. So they were very conservative and said, well, all these things are going to happen. And I'm like, well, that's fine, but what's the history of that? What's the evidence of that? And I had a liberal that was the other way on Facebook that was really getting going on it. And I'm like, but you're relating two different concepts. So, for example, if you sit there and hold a standard for somebody, then why is the standard not held for your person? So here's an example. They were talking about the President Trump has a private email or an email account at like a Republican national committee. Well, that's fine. And they said, well, that's the same thing as Hillary Clinton having a legal server in her bathroom or wherever it was. Well, no, it's not. They're totally two different things. Another thing too is what information is going on there. As a former federal agent, if you were to tell me, well, this high-ranking government official has a private email, I'd say, well, so what? Is there a law against that? Is there something wrong with that? But if you were to say, well, that high-ranking government official not only has a private email, but puts top secret information on it, now we have a different discussion. Okay, I'm not judging Hillary or Donald Trump or whatever, but that's the point of the claims being consistent and comparing apples with apples. So when we get back to the Mexican issue about the borders and all that, what are the real impacts? Well, there's different ways to look at it. You can look at the economics. Will that hurt the U.S.? Will it hurt Mexico? Will it help Mexico? Will it help the U.S.? Who has more to lose here? Who can recover quicker? These are all economic issues that can be addressed. Having said that, there's also political issues. What are the politics of it? Is it going to hurt someone's election or not? What are the impacts of that? There's also, in the sense of border control and immigration, controlling the border, what does that do for us? And I had someone mention, well, there's potential for a reduced drug flow, reduced illegal, like say, trade, if you will. Also, the human mules or the people smuggling people in. That's another one, coyotes, they call them. And then you also have the issue of protection from terrorists. That's something as well. So there's a lot of different moving parts here. How much is it worth controlling a border based off of any of these concepts? Politics, economics, security, and other categories. So it might be something to look at in a larger picture. Having said that, we tend to look for things that we want. So if we don't like what's going on, then we either harp in on it or focus in on it, and we don't really think about, well, what about the other side? So what I would suggest to people is take time to reach out and say, that's fine what you're saying, be it conservative, liberal, but where are you getting that from? What's the information? Is it just a claim? That's fine. Or is it just your opinion? That's okay too. But that puts that information in a different category. But if we sit there and say, well, how do we stem the illegal immigration over the border? Well, what are the solutions? What are the opportunities? What can be done? That's a different conversation than if you said, hey, here's an economic discussion and this is what we can do and all these things. So what I would suggest is on this issue, being very political right now, is take a step back and start looking at different categories of ways to address the issue, and then make sure that you take time to say that this is this in this area, I'm using this source or this information, and then at that point you can at least have things to base your decision on versus just simply finding a Google link or a Yahoo link or a Bing link that says, well, this blog said this. I don't care what some blogger said. That doesn't mean anything to me. And just because it's a blog under The Economist, it doesn't change the fact that it's a blogger. Okay. That's back in the day, that would be somebody who just put a letter to the editor, and that doesn't mean anything. So times have changed, but they're really the same in a lot of ways. So again, take the politics out of it. Look at it from different categories. Look at it from different perspectives. Look at for the data and the studies and the academics or things that are more valid or accurate in the sense of research techniques. And then another thing too is always look at consistency. Flip it around. If it was the opposite person or the opposite party, would you still hold that person to that standard? And so I don't want to hear the communist ends justify the means stuff. That this leads to violence and rage and ugliness and people getting hurt and killed. And that's just a really bad argument, okay? Because if you use that argument, like I saw on campus some communist-leaning students attacking a person asking questions, like physically assaulting them because the ends justify the means to that communist group. Well, what happens when that guy who got assaulted gets 4 or 5 more people and assaults the communist? I mean, what happens? I mean, we just got violence at that point. The ends do not justify the means. And just because your cause may be noble in your mind doesn't mean that everyone else is stupid, or doesn't mean everybody else is ignorant idiots and all that, or they deserve to be beaten, put against the wall, whatever. That's not what that means. So if you want to have an honest discussion about it, especially in the classroom, then you need to look at things from different perspectives, different sources, and then you make your case effectively. And that's the way it's got to be. So I appreciate that. Hopefully this will help out on the issue, maybe how to research and develop it. And I appreciate it, and great topic. Thank you very much.